Hey folks, Kilt-Man here, Kilt-Man at your services. How are you all? Hope you're all doing very, very well. Now it's a Freedom Friday. Yes, they don't all come around quick, don't they? But it ain't just any old Freedom Friday. It's a fate-filled Freedom Friday because Arcacia Stevenson's The First Omen opens today. And I see it in 2 hours time. 2 hours time, I see it. And I shall report back with a full, probably very highly detailed review of it in the next 24 hours. But in the meantime, to whet your appetites, to get you all devilishly excited about this, we've got Mark Korven's fantastic score for it. Yes, Jerry Goldsmith, the great Jerry G, scored The Omen. Won an Oscar for it as well. He scored Damien Omen too, and he scored most triumphantly The Final Conflict. So don't go in expecting Jerry Goldsmith style orchestrations and rousing bombast, because we are in a land of scratchy strings, reeds, woodblock, plucked cello strings, scratchings, chanting, Gregorian mass, whisperings and shrieks. Mark Korven has worked for Robert Eggers on The Witch and The Lighthouse. Now, if you like the scores for those movies, which are very unorthodox, very chaotic, very unsettling, he uses conventional instruments in an unconventional way. And he uses a few unconventional instruments as well. Well, that's what you get with this. The one thing that is a holdover is Ave Satani, the awesome chanting Ave Satani from Jerry Goldsmith. And spoiler alert, this score and the film will end on that piece of music, because you're bleeding in to the very beginning of The Omen. Look, you know that's going to happen. That's no spoiler. There's a lot of tricks and stuff on the way to get there, and there could be a few little things which are left hanging which could be explored further as well. You know what these things are like? Franchises. They birth many things, don't they? That's what the guys in suits intend anyway. Now, advance word on The First Omen is extremely good. I mean, I mentioned in a video yesterday that I had two people I know on the inside who'd seen it and reported back, both with differing viewpoints in movies and genre movies in general, but both agreed that they loved it, thought it was fantastic, and it is a worthy entry in the Omen franchise. Whether you want to keep it just the Omen trilogy, that's up to you. Obviously, I'm looking forward to this. I was on the fence when it first got announced, and I've done a lot of coverage of this building up to its release. And I just hope it lives up to the hype and my expectations, which have now been raised quite considerably, especially by this score. Now, you know yourselves, if you're into your movies and your scores, they drop digitally at midnight on release day. Now, I was actually asleep at midnight, which is unusual for me, but I've been watching Universal's The Invisible Man. Hey, I couldn't see much, obviously, but I could hear him scuffling around. And I fell asleep. And then I woke up, as regular viewers will know, in the spooky haunted Kilt Mansion. There is a particular time when things kick off at 3:34 in the morning. And I wake up at 3:34 in the morning, all too often. And just to set the scene for that, sometimes, you have trouble sleeping and you're lying there, you're tossing from one side to the other, you're moving Mrs. Kilt-Man out of the way. You know what that's like. If you've slept with Mrs. Kilt-Man, she doesn't have to get in the way. But shoving it to one side. And then after what seems an eternity, you look at the clock, and it's 3:34. Sometimes you wake up with a jolt after a real feverish dream, and you clear the cobwebs away, look over at the time, it's 3:34. Sometimes you wake up just out the blue, shuffle about a bit, scratch your arse a bit, let's just leave it at scratching the arse. And then, but a few minutes have gone by, so you look up, it's 3:34. Anyway, so I fell asleep before the score dropped at midnight, because I would have got it right away and listened to it right away. But I woke up and I thought, what time is it? And I thought I could hear birds tweeting. I thought, maybe it's the pre-dawn chorus. But it was way too dark for that. So I looked up at the time, 3:34. It's like, fucking hell. And then I thought, the First Omen, Mark Korven's score, it will have dropped. Got the phone, bought it, downloaded it. But I didn't listen to it until, well, breakfast time, which was about an hour or so ago. And yeah, it's what I expected, I'll be honest, because I know his stuff. I know his sound design. I know there's no melodic, thematic material. It is just dense, bizarre, abstract scratching of strings, plucking of strings, reeds, woodblock. He uses exotic horns as well. There is the horn, the Korven'S, which was used in ancient times. The Roman legions had their trumpeters, and it's one of them. You put it in a gob, and it goes up like that, and it has an S sort of snake shape at the end of it. And you blow into it, and it makes this really bizarre baroque noise, which drives the troops into battle. Now, it was used in the film Centurion, which I've covered on the channel, and the composer Ilan Eshkeri used the Korven'S for that, and it was very, identifiable. Now, I've not seen any liner notes for this score, but I swear to God that he's using the Korven'S in it in a couple of moments. But otherwise, it's string-led, there's weird percussion. There's the Korven'S. Oh, that was good timing, let's be honest, that was pretty good. You do hear it a couple of times. So strings, a lot of cellos, a lot of bass cellos, and plucking at the strings and hitting them, with the bow and all that to create these weird noises, and tons of vocals. I mean, Arve Satani had, sort of a demonic, subverted Gregorian chant going along with it. And you hear this throughout all of the Omen movies from Goldsmith's scores. But this, there's a more ecclesiastical sense to it. There's a sweeter, heightened quality, but there's also whisperings, shriekings, warblings. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Claudio Simonetti and Goblin when he scored Suspiria. Now, another connection there, because I've been saying a lot about how this movie and its basic idea of a young American girl going to a foreign country to join an institution. In this case, it's to give her life, pledge her life to God, but work in an orphanage. But in Suspiria, she's going to join a dance academy, which is run by witches. And in this case, she joins an orphanage, which is apparently run by satanic monks and priests, and a cardinal with something up those big cardinal sleeves of his, something nefarious and nasty. And so a lot of similarities there, I find. And certainly in this score, there's such weird use of vocals, weird use of instruments to create a complete universe of disquiet, unease, and a driving sense of futility. There is no glimmer of hope in this score, and I would not think there's any glimmer of hope in the movie either. I mean, we all know how it ends. It ends as the Omen begins. And looking at the track titles for it, I mean, again, this is no spoilers. The penultimate track is called Ambassador. So what's that going to be? You're going to be meeting, you won't meet Gregory Peck, obviously, unless they've de-aged somebody or used some AI CG version of Gregory Peck. But as I said previously, I think you'll see him sort of in silhouette down the corridor of the hospital as someone scuttles down with a little newborn. Here you are. Have this. You lost yours, but have this one instead. The wife will never know. Never know. Because she won't live long enough to find out. No. We all know how that pans out. Oh. Right. We all know how this pans out as well. Me falling asleep in the cinema. No, as if. Now, there's a lot of stuff which I'd like to play for you, but I won't have the time to do it. So I'm just going to give you a bit of a taster. So we're going to go on to, well, it's actually doing it right now for me. It's moving on to a track called Tighten the Noose. Listen to this. Now there's strings there and there's some kind of percussive element, unless that's the strings being hit. Not that. There's elements of Penderecki. What's the other guy's name? Oh, Ligatelli. Oh, I forget. These classical people whose music was used for The Shining and The Exorcist. Yeah, those guys. And the likes of Wendy Carlos. You've got elements of Joe LaDuca's score for The Evil Dead, which was very bizarre. People tend to overlook that because he went on to such great, much bigger sort of movie scoring. Brotherhood of the Wolf, anybody? There's that horn again. Corinx. I mean, how ominous is that, you know? And again, it's steeped in history. Roman Catholic Church, Romans. It's all connected. It's all connected, folks. Listen to these voices and these strange wailing ululations. It's very demonic. There's elements of Plunkett and McLean, which was that Craig Armstrong, I think. There's definitely elements of The Shining and The Exorcist. And Rosemary's Baby. This score is like The Exorcist suddenly met The Shining and delivered Rosemary's Baby. But this bit reminds me a little bit of Alien Covenant. Is not a good film, but one good element about it is Jed Kersel's score. And there are a couple of tracks, Med Bay being one, which has that, not that horn, but this build to it. Yeah, folks, it's not Jerry Goldsmith. This film is not like Richard Donner's movie. It's its own beast, and it has its own number. I'm sure you know what that number is. It is its own thing, and it's set, 1975 into 76. And apparently the era is evoked pretty convincingly. There is societal strife taking place, which reminds me greatly of the remake of Suspiria, which has stuff that's taking place around, outside, within the culture of change, which is unnecessary to that plot entirely. And I don't know yet how necessary any of this sort of set dressing, this cultural set dressing is to this movie. It's great. It's designed to rattle your nerves, rattle your feelings. Yeah, we know all about that, don't we? It's the seed of unease, of discontent, of fate. The whole thing is an omen. I mean, here's the most sort of conventional sounding that you've got. Sly, sinuous strings, a sense of low dread. But that's not how most of it plays out. I'm gonna say there's tons of vocals, and you'll have a lot of fun with that because, like you listen to heavy metal records and you've always got these things. If you play the records backwards, you hear satanic chanting and subliminal messages. Listen to this. I keep talking about how, the players in the orchestra must feel and what they interpret from writing and composing like this sort of music. Then I know people who play instruments, a lot of people who play strings, and then I know people who play the clarinet a lot. It's one of my favourite instruments, the clarinet, as it happens. And how dedicated they are. But they learn classically, and then they learn sort of like the newer stuff, like a jazzier element. But this is just completely unorthodox, and it's like, whatever the rules were, forget them. I want you to hit the strings, I want you to scratch them, I want you to bite them. It's all crazy stuff. And if it puts your teeth on edge, imagine sitting there in the sessions scoring this, how you're all feeling with that. Like, wow. They must take themselves into a strange place to do it. On YouTube, there is a session sort of reel, lasts about 3 or 4 minutes, I think, of Mark Korven's orchestra. It's not the biggest orchestra, but it's still pretty impressive, to be honest. A lot of string players there, and you've got all the choir are all there as well. And you can watch, he's in the mixing room and all that. But you can see it all taking place, various little cues sort of seeped together. And they don't appear to be playing to screen either, so it's not the film playing it. At least I couldn't see that on the screen. So a lot of people do score to what's happening. So they've got the movie there and they're scoring to it. But it does happen without that as well. If the composer's confident enough that his suites, his compositions, his tracks, his cues could be timed, he knows exactly what he wants to put in there, she wants to put in there. And then obviously they take it away and they edit it all together, because it doesn't have to be done to screen. Although I think that'd be one of the best ways. Although if you were a player, you'd be watching the movie, wouldn't you? It'd be cueing you in, you'd be going like, what? Oh! I love this. The violins and the cellos are all played in such an angsty fashion. There's no sweetness, there's no lyricism to it. It's all freakishly weird. And I love it. It will not be to everyone's cup of tea. It'll work in the movie. I've got no doubt about that. Well, I've heard, definitely it does. But if you're a score collector, this might not appeal to you. Divorced from the movie itself, it just might not work. It definitely isn't a quiet taste. I just love this. This is a track called The Claw, by the way. I do wonder what use that claw's being put to produce a scream like that. Just a scream like that. This is a track called The Antichrist. The whole thing's about the Antichrist, isn't it? So, no spoilers there, folks. I've got to keep my eye on the time. There are more mainstream reviews have been coming out. I've only read a couple of them. One was actually quite scathing about it. Said it was schlocky and dull jump scares, a few dizzy ideas that don't really gel. But other reviews and people that I know who've seen it have said, no, the crazy shit works. And the overall sense of menace and doom closing in is palpable. There is a few little, jumpy bits, and there is that allusion to having, well, we've got a chance here to maybe we could do a little offshoot story with some of the characters we've introduced here. We can do another little thing. There is that element to it. Look, if done successfully and it works, then I've got no beef with this. Now, Keisha Stevenson may have seemed an odd choice to be helming this movie, but she has indie sensibilities, which I think was probably what was required to make sure that this film isn't so generically bland, a typical franchise cash-in, whether you go in sidequel, prequel, sequel, remake, reboot, reimagining. There's a bloody mantra there, isn't there? And then by and large, they're crap. This, by and large, appears not to be crap. Oh dear, in a few hours' time. If you see a video of me and I'm sitting in the pub and I'm just like that, and there's loads of whiskies and a lot of them are empty, then it hasn't worked for me. And I don't hold back. And when I've got myself hyped up for this now, I made this mistake with Halloween Kills. I really did, and that haunts me now. That entire event and the year of building up to it that I was doing, and then, oh God, and I actually did a video in the cinema. I wasn't pirating it. I interviewed someone who was sitting watching it with me. And then we went to the pub. I'd always met her as well. We went to the pub, had a few drinks, and we had a bit of a discourse about it. And but I knew I was fucking hating that bloody movie. I sincerely hope that is not the case with this. I'm an ardent devotee of The Omen. The Omen is the pulpy version of The Exorcist. demonics and the occult was all the rage from the late 60s and into the 70s. A lot of TV movies had satanic cults and devil worship and stuff like that. But you had like Rosemary's Baby, obviously The Exorcist, obviously The Omen, Devil's Reign, Race with the Devil. There was just tons and tons of stuff that came out. The devil was really big in the 70s. But whereas The Exorcist disturbed everybody, freaked everybody out, The Omen was an A-list movie with A-list actors. It was big. It was with a proper big director. It was genuinely a huge prospect. And I was only a wee kid at the time, but I did see The Omen very shortly after it had come out. I was looking back, well, you know how I lived in the cinema, basically, and saw everything. And I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. Now, I'm not religious in the least. I come from a Catholic family, but I am not part of that faith or any faith. And this is as far as I'm concerned, that's the Holy Spirit for me. And after a lot of this, I end up praying at the altar. No, I don't. Oh God, no. But it doesn't matter whether you've got a faith or not, because the story of The Omen was so captivating. And he's just a little boy. He's not responsible. He's just a little boy. I won't do it. Gregory Peck is outstanding. David Warner is outstanding. Patrick Troughton is outstanding. Lee Remick, Billy Whitelaw. Everybody is outstanding in that movie. I like the idea that also in the First Omen there are hints and nods towards I can't pronounce the filmmaker's name, but the old video nasty Possession with Isabelle Adjani and Sam Neill, a young Sam Neill in it. It's a disturbing movie. I don't think it's the classy cult movie that people make it out to be, but it's okay. Sam Neill is also Damien in later life in The Final Conflict, and he's in a film called Possession, which this film actually tips a nod to, you know? I love connections. So you got a lot of this. It's the voices. I'm talking over it because it'll help with getting this past the gods of copyright law on YouTube. Well, it might not, but see, that's the string plucking there is very Joe LaDuca from Evil Dead, and also from The Exorcist and The Shining as well. So, but we're in that musical arena where literally anything goes. Anything conventional goes out the window. Anything unorthodox and avant-garde and freakish, you can stay right here and just do what you do best. I love it. I think it's great. I'm going to leave it there. You've heard enough. Well, let's just do something else. Come on, that's... Okay, yeah, all right. We have to do this. I'm going to bleed you into Mark Korven's adaptation of Ave Satani. I'm going to bleed you into it. This is Ambassador. Now, I haven't seen the film yet, but I can see the silhouette of Ambassador Thorne down the end of the corridor, distressed, having lost, he's been told he's lost his son. And then someone scurrying down with a little bundle, or at least to deliver the news. We've got a substitute for you. A little bit satanic, but hey, all kids are devils, aren't they? They're all monsters. That's going to be your fateful finale. Now we're going to get this film's version of Ave Satani. See, this is the whole thing about it, the chanting, the Gregorian stuff. the mass liturgical stuff. It's subverted. All of it's darker. It's almost like the old lyrics, the old hymns have been completely rewritten with the exact opposite of what their original meanings were. It's the devil's meaning. Like those heavy metal records played backwards, the words mean something different. Connections. So it's only a brief sort of recap. And then we end up in, again, one of the few very rare, sort of very somber, but slightly more thematic, melodic elements. Which didn't last long, did it? But that's your fade out there. So folks, there you go. I'll be back laters with hopefully a lot of news. When I come back from the flicks, I've got to take the dog out, so don't expect the review straight away, because I won't be able to go to the pub. I've just realised I will not be able to go to the pub straight afterwards and sit and deliver a review. It's beautiful, isn't it? You know, it's angelic, and yet we know it's masking something far more menacing. Oh, we're looking forward to it. Don't let me down. Please don't let me down. So you'll probably get the full review. It might be tonight. It'll probably be tomorrow, in all honesty. So folks, we're going to leave it there. Mind how you go. You have been warned. This is your first omen, okay? I'm going to see you all later. He's just a little boy. He's not responsible. He's just a little boy. I won't do it. Well, if you won't do it, I will.